Hello friends and welcome to another video lesson from PBOS Talks. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe and click the bell so that you can be notified of new uploads. This is the another video from the playlist called SQL Concepts Clarified, and here we will be learning the difference of a table alias and a column alias in SQL. As you know, SQL is the language used in our DBMS, okay, Relational Database Management System. So you can think of an alias as a nickname of objects. I can just use a more relatable term, nickname of a person, but this one, nickname of an object or an object identifier. Okay, let's look first at what is known as column alias. Column alias, okay. A column alias is used in a query if we want to use a different column heading rather than the default column name itself. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. So if we will query a table, okay, let's query this table called supplier, select supplier ID, supplier name, contact name from supplier, and then execute this. Then by default, the column headings, this one's here, the ones above, this, and this are the column headings. By default, what will be displayed will be the column name itself. You see, if I do a shift F4 of this one, and then you will see the table structure of that table. Table supplier consists of 3 columns, and these are the names: supplier ID, supplier name, contact name. And by default, when you run a query or execute a query, by default, the column heading being displayed will be the same as the column name itself. See, supplier ID, supplier name, and then finally contact name is here, contact name, right? But if you wanted to customize the column heading, when the query results, when the result set comes out, then you will use a column alias, okay? So let's just say we wanted to use an alias on the column name called supplier name because we wanted to customize it in such a way that it is more understandable, more descriptive to the user seeing it. Then we could use something like this. We will add the alias right after the object we're trying to alias. In this case, I'm trying to create a column alias. So we will add the alias right after the column name itself. So the column name is supplier name. Right after that, I will just add a space, and right after that, I will put in the alias, column alias. In this case, my alias is simply name of supplier. There's a little bit of effort of rephrasing supplier name into this just for you to see the effect. So once we execute this, then the only effect, remember that when we create a column alias, we're not actually modifying the actual column name in the table structure. Why? If you describe this table, it will still be the same column name as before. Supplier name right here, right? So we didn't really change the column name by doing an aliasing. We're just, the alias, the only effect it has is on the display. Once it displays the result set after executing the query. Okay, it doesn't change the column name at all. So right here, we can see instead of displaying supplier name, it is displaying to you the alias we have provided, which is name of supplier. Okay, so that's a little bit better than the one before because you have that free hand of customizing the column name as far as displaying it, the column heading. Okay, but now if you really wanted to do a better customization, such as using spaces in between the alias, having an alias having or consisting of more than one word, then you will definitely need a space, right? So if you wanted to maintain that space just for display purposes in the column heading so that it's more descriptive, it's more easy readable, then you will need to use double quotes. Okay, so again, you will need a double quote only if your alias consists of more than one word or you want it to be case sensitive. Okay, so I will do that. I will enclose this alias with double quotes. And then I want it to really be more readable, so I'll remove the underspace. I'll replace them with spaces. Okay, name of supplier. So let's see the effect after adding the double quotes on the column alias. Okay, so now we see that it's better. Why? Because it lets you display the alias with spaces in them, right here, if you don't see it. Name of supplier, there are spaces in between instead of the underscore. And the other thing is that it has become case sensitive. Exactly the way you are putting your alias here in that mixed case or proper case or title case, whatever you want to call it, then it's coming out exactly like that in the column heading of your result set, right? Because we used a pair of double quotes on it. Again, you only use double quotes on column aliases if either you want it to be displayed case sensitive or you want to use spaces, which is because you are using or your alias consists of more than one word. Okay, that's column alias. Now we've learned about column alias. Again, it is used mainly, column alias is used mainly to customize the column heading. Okay, next is we're comparing, remember, this video is comparing column alias and table alias. Okay, so now we're talking about table alias. Table alias has a more important usage when compared to a column alias. Okay, first, we use it when we join two or more tables for multiple reasons, but you will see. Let me run a query joining two tables. Okay, table alias. So I'll be using this query because this is the kind of scenario, one of the scenarios wherein we really need to use a table alias. So select asterisk from supplier, comma, products, where supplier ID equals supplier ID. My query, if you'll notice, is using two tables, supplier table and products table, two tables being joined. And the join condition is here, being joined via the column supplier ID from both tables, okay? So if I will execute this, I will get an error. Let's read through that. It says column ambiguously defined, ambiguous like confusing, okay? Column ambiguously defined. And the only column we've used here is the supplier ID column. It's ambiguous, it's confusing to SQL because it so happened that both tables, supplier and products, have a column called supplier ID. So SQL is actually asking you, which supplier ID is this? The one that belongs to supplier table or the one that belongs to products table? Also this one. Which is this? The one that belongs to supplier table or the products table? That's the source of ambiguity because, again, the column name exists on both tables. That's where you will need the use of a table alias, okay? So this is a different purpose compared to a column alias, which is more for display purposes, okay? So let's just rephrase the the select statement, making use of table aliases this time, okay? So now we are using table alias. Remember that, like in the use of the column alias, there's something similar here in that the table alias is being mentioned right after the table name. So here's the table name supplier, and right after that, separated by space, is the alias, which is just an S. It could be any number of characters without spaces. Okay, here supplier S. S is the alias, and then comma. The next table is products. And to that, I'm also using an alias P. Again, if you remember, if you backtrack a little bit, the reason for using the alias here is that we encountered the column ambiguously defined error, which happens when you join two or more tables, in which there is a column that exists. The name is similar across two or more tables. That's the cause of confusion or ambiguity. So as a best practice, when you're joining two or more tables, it's always a good idea to make use of table aliasing. Okay, so now back to the table alias. We declared that table alias by putting it or adding it right after the table name itself. Table name, space, table alias, comma, table name, space, table alias. And then in any other part of the select statement, whenever you are mentioning a column name, you must mention the table alias of that column, okay? The alias of the table where that column belongs to. So in this case, where supplier ID equals supplier ID. Remember earlier we were seeing that ambiguity error, and this caused by this column supplier ID, which actually exists in both table supplier and products. To solve that, we created a table alias in both tables, on both tables, and then now we will be using that alias preceding the column name. So the syntax is a dot notation. So table alias dot column name. Okay, here also table alias dot column name. Okay, so with this, with the join of two tables, I'm making use of table aliases. Now this will solve the ambiguity problem we were seeing earlier. Okay, so right now we see the output and we didn't see anymore the error column ambiguously defined, which was being caused by the presence of this column supplier ID, which is ambiguous because it exists in both tables, and it has been solved by the use of a table alias. Okay, again, as a best practice, one of the best practices is that when you join two or more tables, such as this case, you must use a table alias to avoid any such errors like this one. Okay, so this is the main reason for using a table alias. Another one is also performance, but we can talk about it in another video. Just here in this video, we have seen very clearly, I guess, I hope, the difference between a column alias and a table alias. And as you know, in column alias, it's more for display purposes, but for table alias, it's really very functional and it can help you avoid the ambiguity error. Okay. Thank you for watching and listening. If you haven't subscribed, please click subscribe and I'll be seeing you in the next video.